1. What is income consumption curve? Ans. Income consumption curve is thus the locus of equilibrium points at various levels of consumers' income. Income consumption curve traces out the income effect on the quantity consumed of the goods. 2. What is substitution effect? Ans. Substitution effect means the change in the purchases of a good as a consequence of a change in relative prices alone, real income remaining constant. When the price of a good changes, the real income or purchasing power of a consumer also changes. 3. What is Slutsky's substitution effect? Ans. Slutsky has given a slightly different version of substitution effect. In this version, when the price of a good changes and consumer's real income or purchasing power increases, the income of the consumer is changed by the amount equal to the change in its purchasing power which occurs as a result of the price change. His purchasing power changes by the amount equal to the change in the price multiplied by the number of units of the good which the individual used to buy at the old price. 4. What price consumption curve? Ans. Price consumption curve traces the effect of a change in price on the quantity demanded of a good. But price consumption curve does not directly relate price with quantity demanded. 5. What is income consumption curve? Ans. Income consumption curve is the locus in indifference curve map of the equilibrium quantities consumed by an individual at different levels of his income. Thus the income consumption curve, ICC, can be used to derive the relationship between the level of consumer's income and the quantity purchased of a commodity by him. Six. What is Engel curve? Ans. A 19th century German statistician Ernst Engel, 1821–1896, made an empirical study of family budgets to draw conclusions about the pattern of consumption expenditure, that is, expenditure of different goods and services by the households at different levels of income. The conclusions he arrived at are still believed to be generally valid. The curve showing the relationship between the levels of income and quantity purchased of particular commodities has therefore been named after Engel. 7. What happens to substitution effect if two commodities are perfect complements? Ans. If two commodities are perfect complements, the substitution effect of a fall in the price of X, or P, is zero. So the change in demand is entirely due to income effect. 8. What is compensated demand curve? Ans. As G.S. Mardala and E. Miller put it, the separation of the effect of price changes into substitution and income effects is also related to the definition of two types of demand curves. I. The ordinary demand curve which includes the substitution and income effects, and E. The compensated demand curve which includes the substitution effect only. The compensated demand curve is so called because the consumer is compensated for any decline in real income due to a rise in the price of the good or taxed, given negative compensation, for any increase in real income due to a decline in the price of a good. 9. What is Marshall's concept of consumer's surplus? Ans. Marshall's concept of consumer surplus was based on the measurability and interpersonal comparisons of utility. According to him, every increase in the consumer's surplus is an indicator of the increase in social welfare. Marshall defines the consumer's surplus in the following words: excess of the price which a consumer would be willing to pay, rather than go without a thing over that which he actually does pay, is the economic measure of this surplus satisfaction. It may be called consumer's surplus. 10. How can you measure the consumer surplus? The amount of money which a person is willing to pay for a good indicates the amount of utility he derives from that good. The greater the amount of money he is willing to pay, the greater the utility he will obtain from it. Therefore, the marginal utility of a unit of a good determines the price a consumer will be prepared to pay for that unit. The total utility which a person will get from a good will be given by sum of marginal utilities, mu, of the units of the good purchased, and the total price which he actually pays is equal to the price per unit multiplied by the number of units purchased. Thus, consumer surplus equals what a consumer is willing to pay minus what he actually pays, equals L marginal utility, price x number of units of a commodity purchased. 11. What is price compensating variation? Ans. Price compensating variation is defined by Hicks as the maximum amount of money the consumer will pay for the privilege of buying a commodity at a lower price, so that he obtains the initial level of welfare, that is, the level of welfare he obtained before the fall in price. What is price equivalent variation? Ans. Price equivalent variation is defined by Hicks as the minimum sum the consumer will accept to receive, that is, will have to be paid, for foregoing the opportunity of buying at a lower price so that he obtains the subsequent level of welfare, or satisfaction, which he reaches with the lower price. 13. What is quantity compensating variation? Ans. Quantity compensating variation is defined by Hicks as the maximum amount of money a consumer will be willing to pay for the privilege of buying a good at a lower price, if along with this privilege he is constrained to buy the quantity of the good which he would buy at the lower price, in the absence of any compensating payment. 14. What is quantity equivalent? Ans. The quantity equivalent variation is defined as the minimum sum of money that the consumer will accept, or will have to be paid, for foregoing the opportunity of buying the commodity at the lower price, provided he is constrained to buy the quantity of X which he actually buys at the old higher price.